Are you looking to become a better real estate investor? Then hang on, because you're about to experience another episode of the world's most popular real estate podcast, the BiggerPockets Podcast. But before we get to this week's show, I wanted to invite you to become part of our community, BiggerPockets.com, the real estate investing social network. The membership is free, and you'll instantly gain access to networking opportunities, educational content, investor tools, and more. Sign up now and get a free copy of our book, The Ultimate Beginner's Guide to Real Estate Investing, read by hundreds of thousands of budding entrepreneurs. Just click this link right here, or just head to BiggerPockets.com. With that, let's get to the show.
This is the BiggerPockets Podcast, show 68.
You're listening to BiggerPockets Radio, simplifying real estate for investors large and small. If you're here looking to learn about real estate investing without all the hype, you're in the right place. Stay tuned and be sure to join the millions of others who have benefited from BiggerPockets.com, your home for real estate investing online.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Josh Dorkin, host of the BiggerPockets Podcast, here with my grouchy co-host, Mr. Brandon Turner. What's going on, Grouch Pants?
What's going on, Josh? I'm not grouchy. Today is like the best day we've had in the world out here in Washington. It's like 80 and sunny and perfect. I'm not grouchy on a day like today.
So that's why you ditched work.
That's why I left to go to Starbucks. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
No, but I do miss the wonderful weather that we had down in California as well. That was wonderful.
Yeah, it was all right. You know, it rained almost every day.
It rained for like an hour. You don't know what rain is.
No, it rained, man.
You don't know what rain is.
Okay, listen, Captain Depressive. Let's get to this thing here. All right, so for those of you guys who don't know, Brandon and I were in Southern California. We were actually invited by Google to speak on their campus on the topic of real estate investing, and I think it went really, really well. It was a big honor. It was exciting to be there, and I think we did well for ourselves. What do you think?
I think so too. Thank you, Jordan, for inviting us down. That was great.
Yeah,
shout
props
out
to Jordan.
Jordan, yeah. And yeah, I liked it. I thought it went perfect. So I really liked the food. That was probably my favorite part. They give everybody free food. It was incredible.
They do, which is cool. But it was all right. It was all right.
Maybe it wasn't as good as the gnocchi that we had at some authentic Italian place that you took me to.
It was not. It definitely was not. But it was good. I mean, I would not turn it down if I were offered it again.
I wish more companies offered free food for lunch for their employees.
Clearly, you have an axe to grind, Brandon. All right, man. Well, listen. Let's get on to the show here. Before we do, today we've got a really good quick tip. Yeah, we got a quick tip for you guys. So today's quick tip is this: share your success stories in the BiggerPockets Success Forum, and we'll be picking upcoming guests for the BiggerPockets Podcast based upon those success stories. We're going to link to the Success Story Forum in the show notes at BiggerPockets.com/show68. So whether you just did your first deal or your 100th deal, let us know about it. Share it with the community. What went right? What went wrong? Maybe a little bit about the journey. And if we like your story, we'll reach out to you and see if you want to jump on as a guest here on the BiggerPockets Podcast.
Yeah.
Otherwise, sharing your success story is really great for one other thing, which is building credibility for yourself. As you share your successes and people hear about them, they realize you're out and about, you're doing things, you're making it happen, and they're more inclined to want to work with you. So if you want more people to work with you, tell everybody about what you're succeeding at. Tell people what you're doing right, and they're going to want to work with you. So make it happen. Share your stories, share your successes, and that's today's quick tip.
Cool. All right. Well, let's get on to the show.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Well, listen. Today we're going to introduce you to somebody who you probably already know, real estate investor Mark Ferguson. Mark has been a contributor on the BiggerPockets blog for a while now, and is a real estate, I don't know, what do you want to call him? Like a semi-superhero or something or other.
Yeah.
As you know, I mean, the guy's doing a lot of stuff in real estate. He's flipping, landlording, running a real estate sales team, writing on his blog and on the BiggerPockets blog. And he does all of it in less than 40 hours a week, which is supposed to be impressive to me, isn't it?
Yeah. When was the last time you worked 40 hours in a week? Never. You're like 90 hours a week. So imagine doing everything you do in 40 hours and having two little kids at home. like he does?
I got 3 little kids at home, and I do it in 90. Well,
Yeah,
oh well. What are you gonna do? Okay, so Mark is a superstar. He's rocking it, and of course today we're going to talk with him about how he does it all, and also cover his journey towards his ultimate end-all be-all goal of buying 100 homes. So why don't we get to it? Mark, welcome to the show, man. Good to have you here.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate you having me on the show, and I look forward to it.
Awesome. Well, let's get started. Why don't we start at the beginning? Because as Julie Andrews tells me, it's a very good place to start.
Oh my God. Did you really?
How did you get started in real estate investing, Mark?
Wow.
Well, when I was a kid, my dad, he wasn't really an investor so much as a real estate agent. And I used to sleep below his desk when I was 3 years old, and he'd be working in the office. Nice. So it was kind of my predestined. Well, to be honest, when I went to college and through high school, I never wanted anything to do with real estate. But I got out of college, had a degree in finance, could not find a job. This was 2001. And I said, hey, I'll go home. I'll work for my dad for a summer. Then I'll go find a real job. And that summer turned into 13 years of real estate. So,
nice.
And then
it's a good summer job.
Oh yeah, it was great. My dad primarily sold houses as a realtor, but he also did a few fix and flips, and that's the part that I really loved doing. And it progressed from there, and I bought my first long-term rental in 2010.
Nice.
Okay.
Nice. So when you got into the business, what did you start doing? Did you started as an agent?
Yes. I first started helping him with the fix and flips as well. So he taught me, where he bought them, fixing them up, the real basics of it. And then while we were doing that, I got my real estate license and I started selling real estate. I think it was September and I'd graduated in May. So pretty soon after I graduated, I started selling real estate, and I never really liked selling real estate that much. I liked the fix and flip.
Nice. Yeah. Been there.
Did you start, you said you got your first long-term rental in 2010, but you also flip houses. So did you start flipping your own houses before that, or was that after that? Like, what was your first deal of your own?
My first deal of my own was that long-term rental in 2010.
Okay.
Because up until September of 2013, my dad and I worked together. So we flipped houses together that whole 12 years.
Okay.
And then my first fix and flip was September of 2013 when I took over the entire business from him.
So what was your role when you guys were working together? Did you pretty much do everything, or did you have any specific thing that you were doing?
It progressed through the years from maybe looking at houses and driving by them to at the end, I was almost doing everything. So I would find houses for us to buy. I would coordinate with the contractors. I would put them in MLS. I would take pictures. Pretty much everything at the end I was doing, and he supplied the money.
Nice. Sugar daddy.
Yep.
That's awesome. And then ultimately you said you ended up taking over the business from your dad.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, right on. That's great. So let's go back a second. Let's talk about being an agent. Do you recommend others become an agent? And if so, why? If not, why not?
Yes, I do. Even though I didn't like being an agent when I first started out, I think the biggest problem was I was trying to follow what my dad did and his business plan, not so much my own plan. And I never liked cold calling people. I never liked doing open houses, trying to reach out to new people to get business. And then once I found my own niche, which was actually REO and HUD homes, I loved it. I could not get enough of it. And from the investor's standpoint, man, it saves me so much money. It's ridiculous how much money I save by being a real estate agent, buying, selling homes. And I know I get way more deals because I'm an agent, because I can act so fast.
Well, let's talk about that, because this is something that people who listen to the show a lot know that I talk about, that I've taken the class twice to get my real estate agent license, and I still have not actually taken the test yet. I something always comes up. Like the first time it was, I decided I was going to flip houses. The second time I decided I was going to be a blogger on BiggerPockets instead.
I think it's
like,
fear of failure, maybe.
Not fear. I'm like, oh, it's like $2,000, a year to hold my license. And I'm not going to be an agent. I won't make that back. But then every single year I've kind of regretted it, thinking I would have made 10 times that back by being an agent. I don't know. Maybe I undervalue what my potential was at the time. Like I didn't think I was going to buy as much real estate as I did. I don't know. But so let's talk about, like, convince me, Mark. Like you say you can do things faster by being an agent. How is that? Like, what do you mean?
Well, first off, if it makes you feel better, I've been around real estate my whole life, and I failed my test twice before I passed it.
Oh,
so mostly because I thought, hey, I know this; it's no problem. I didn't really study. Not a good choice, but
and the questions they ask, at the bottom of page 324 of the book, and they want to know how many centimeters it is between A and B. Yeah, there's a lot of like real silly little questions that they ask. So I wouldn't really feel too bad about that.
No. I tell people the questions they ask are meant to try and trick people. They're not meant to teach you about anything. They're meant to trick you.
Yep.
But yeah, no. So, but acting fast when I get deals, I buy, I'd say 95% of my properties off MLS. And when a property comes onto the MLS system, I check it probably 5 to 10 times a day for new listings. And as soon as I see that price that's like, okay, that's a good deal, I can set up a showing, I can go look at it, and I can have an offer submitted in less than 2 hours. So for me, I know that's probably my last 3 deals I got because I acted so fast.
Yep.
A couple of them were listed on a Friday, and for some reason, I just wrote a blog on BiggerPockets about this. Nobody else made offers until the Monday when I already had it under contract because they took the weekend off. So acting fast, I think, is just a huge benefit.
I read that in your article, and I'll link to that in the show notes at biggerpockets.com/show68. But in that article, you mentioned the Friday thing, and I thought that's genius because it's so true. Everybody's like, by like Friday morning, everyone's checked out, especially if you're self-employed and the investors, they're all golfing or whatever. You can get an offer on a Friday and try to negotiate it on the weekend. I thought that was a genius idea. So.
Yeah, that's happened. I think my last 2 properties, I made an offer Friday. They weren't listed Friday morning, but actually Friday afternoon. And I'm dragging. I'm like, I don't want to drive 30 minutes to go see this house, but it's such a good deal. I have to do it. So I went out there, saw it. I'm like, okay, had my assistant write up the contract. I signed it on DocuSign. We had it to them the next day. They countered us, and I accepted. So
nice.
And they told me, hey, we had 5 more showings today and expecting at least 1 offer. So you better accept this quick. I'm like, yeah, no problem. So.
There you go. There you go. Acting fast is something that not only as an agent, but as an investor in general, you need to be prepared, right? I think a lot of new investors seem to find themselves losing potential deals because they're not ready to act fast. They don't know how to analyze properties. They're not prepared. And when a good opportunity comes up, it takes them a little bit longer, which, is totally understandable. But that's where the experience comes in and gives you the chance to, scoop in and make offers on better deals more quickly.
Yes, for sure. And I always tell my agents and I have a joke where it doesn't even have to be an investor, but even an owner-occupant buyer, when they're first looking at a house and they see a great deal, we always say it takes at least one, because almost everybody waits a couple days, talks it over with their family, talks it over with their lender, and it's gone. And it takes them that one deal to realize you've got to act on those good deals immediately. You can't, wait 2-3 days for it. You've just got to go for it. Sometimes it takes more than one, but usually at least one deal.
Yeah, for sure.
Just this morning, there's a friend of mine on BiggerPockets who sent me a text message. Like, we met on BiggerPockets, sent me a text message saying, hey, there's a new triplex just came up in your town. I don't know how he saw it before I did, before my agent did. But anyway, I reached out and had an offer in this morning by like 10 a.m. Because I knew like it was $40,000 for a triplex. Like, it brings in $1,800 a month. It's so absurdly good that it'll be gone by noon. I mean, I haven't heard back yet. But I had to get in quickly because in today's market where those deals that are just really, really good deals, they're gone in a heartbeat. So if you're not quick like that, you'll just miss out on them.
So that was why you were late for work. Got it.
Yeah.
Great deal if you get that one.
It would be, I don't know what the inside looks like, but I put a contingency on it, inspection, and I'll go check it out later, but whatever. We'll see.
Nice, I think.
I'll let everyone know how it comes in the next couple of weeks. Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, there you go. Cool. All right, Mark. So let's talk about buying properties on the MLS. I think a lot of people are struggling to find deals on MLS. What gives you the advantage? Is it just your market? You're up in Greeley, Colorado, which is farm country. It's what's it about 2 hours north, hour and a half north of Denver, and is it just by virtue of where you are, or are you doing something different than most folks that we hear from complaining?
I think our market is really similar to other parts of the country that see the huge competition on MLS. Last year in the Greeley area, there's about 100,000 people in Greeley, and we're actually an hour north of Denver, not an hour and a half.
Oh, so sorry. I mean, what happens is, for those of you who are not from Colorado and you don't know how this works, when we get a windy day here in Denver, it starts smelling like cow manure. And what we say is we're like, oh man, it smells like Greeley. I guess a storm is coming, because it means the winds have gone around the mountains, started heading south, past Greeley where all the cow poop is, and basically comes down here and delivers it to us in Denver. So our weather is typically determined by the stench from Greeley coming down to Denver.
That's what we say about Tacoma. We call it the Tacoma aroma.
Nice.
Yeah, when the wind's blowing the right way, it thinks up Western Washington.
So, okay, it's an hour north.
All right.
Got it.
Yeah.
I stand corrected.
All right. So, but let's see, a year ago, we had, I think, 1,500 active listings on MLS in our Greeley, Evans area, which is actually a suburb of Greeley. And this week, we had 250. So our inventory is just nothing.
Oh,
Owner occupants can't find a house to buy, let alone investors. So it's not like we have a special market where there's an abundance of MLS deals. It's just being able to find them, to act quickly, and convince the seller that you're the best buyer for that house.
Yep. And are they REOs that you're buying, or are they private sellers, or what kind of people are selling these?
They're a mix of everything. Our REOs are way down as well. Really, really few REOs, very few short sales too. I do have one REO under contract now for a fix and flip, and I've had 3 short sales under contract for 6 months that I don't know if they're ever going to go anywhere. We'll see. But most of my deals lately have been regular sellers or estate sales. So
Gotcha.
It's
Okay.
Houses that need work or people that just want to sell them fast.
Yeah. Yeah. And Denver's really tight too. I mean, the market here is crazy. I mean, there's nothing on the market. So the flippers I know in town here are all scrapping. I mean, they're really struggling to find any kind of opportunities.
Hey, I have a question about if somebody is not an agent, for those people, maybe they want to become an agent, maybe you've convinced them, but they're not yet. How can they best work with their real estate agent? Like, how would you work with a client best to get those deals quickly? Because I mean, a real estate investor is not the only client for a real estate agent. So how do I convince my agent? Like, why did my friend from BP call me this morning before my agent called me? Why wasn't my agent calling me at 8 this morning instead of?
That's a great question.
So how do I get him to do that and other people?
Right. That's a great question and hard to answer. I'll be honest. I am the wrong agent for those investors. I'm not going to be the one sourcing out deals to my investors either. Really, it's not always a bad thing to find a new young agent who's hungry.
Yep.
And is looking for that deal. For one thing, they probably have time. If you're dealing with an REO agent or a big agent who's doing a ton of deals a year, they're not going to be sending out deals the second they hit the market. But if you've got an agent who's only working with 1 or 2 clients and they need that commission check to live, they'll be searching MLS every day. As soon as they find a deal, they may send it to you.
Yep.
You still want to make sure they know what they're doing. But when I was first starting out in the business, that's how I got my clients. When I was searching MLS, I wasn't searching for myself. I was searching for them and just doing everything I could to find them deals so I could get paid a commission check. I also think it helps to take care of your agent. Take him to lunch once in a while. If you want them to submit a bunch of offers for you, especially if they're low offers, you need to make it, at least give them something back that says, hey, I'm not just using you to submit all these offers that will never get accepted. I do appreciate your work.
Especially, take them to a nice steak dinner versus McDonald's, right?
Yeah,
right.
I mean, it really is a good tip, and I kind of like feel like I need to take my agent out, right? Because my agent, like, he does stuff. I always have that impression of like, well, he works for me because I'm giving him all his commission, but at the same time, he's putting a lot of offers that I know will probably never get accepted, and that chances are. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to call. I didn't mean to actually throw my agent under the bus earlier either. It was like 8 a.m. when the BP guy told me, and 9 a.m. when he got in the office. So that was pretty good on his part. But just in case he's listening, the show, I got to make sure he knows I love him. But
I mean, truth be told, how many offers are they writing versus the commission check? And Brandon, you're a savvy investor, right? I mean, you said on previous shows that you don't even have to call your agent and get on the phone. You text them, I want to put an offer in, here's the price, and they write an offer. So, you're not wasting their time. And, if you write 10, 15 offers and one of them closes, they've probably spent as much, if less time with you than they do on a typical buyer, don't they?
I would imagine so, yeah. I mean, like, this morning is a good example, right? And this is something, Mark, you brought up a little bit ago. When you're looking at a property, you do the electronic signature, and you can offer in the field immediately right away, and you can make it happen quick. So that's a tip. That's a tip I would throw out there as well, that if people want to work with an agent quickly, like you said, find an agent that can do electronic signatures. Like exactly this morning, my agent emailed me, then he called me, and then I texted him back because I was talking with you, Josh. And then
how about that?
Yeah, somewhere in that process, like, he emailed me over the offer. I emailed it back to him, and within, it took 15 minutes for us to have an offer in. So yeah, that's my tip to piggyback on your tip there, Mark.
I think, Mark, that's probably that would explain why people should look at agents who are technically savvy, right? I mean, if you've got an agent who's still working with paper docs and doesn't get social media and just doesn't get the speed thing, they're probably not the best agent for investors, right?
Right. One of my agents was working with another agent, and she was emailing her a contract, and she didn't hear back for a day. And it turns out the other agent didn't have a smartphone and checked her email once at night.
Oh, man.
And it's like, if you're working with an investor who wants to submit offers and speed is the game, not only is she probably not going to be able to submit that offer very quick, but if the seller comes back and says, hey, we have another offer, or hey, we have multiple offers, you may not even hear until another offer is accepted. And right now, so many sellers or agents are using email primarily. They aren't even calling people anymore.
Yep.
So your agent has to be tech savvy.
And I think, to that, I think that's dangerous too. The email thing, that's assuming that somebody's going to be sitting in front of a computer when you email them. And it reminds me of a story. I had a lunch meeting with a guy, and I showed up, and the guy never showed up. And I'm sitting in the restaurant. It's like 7 minutes after we were supposed to meet, and I start going through my email. And he had sent me an email like a half hour before we were supposed to meet and said, "Hey, I'm not going to make it." Instead of calling me, instead of texting me, he emailed me. And so I showed up, and I'm sitting there, and I was livid. I mean, that's not the way.
Were you throwing food?
I threw food at everybody in the restaurant. Yeah, I was like a petulant child. No, I mean, but
smash.
I think a lot of people just don't get it. They still don't get it. Like, email is great for communication, but there's a lot of stuff that has to be done through texting or a phone call. And, the same goes for somebody who's slightly less savvy. Yeah, they have to start getting to the email because people expect it.
Yeah. And whenever I make an offer on a house, I'll email it in, and then I'll always follow up with a call, or I'll have my assistant call them, make sure, hey, did you get this offer? Talk to them. Do you have any other offers? Get as much information as they can. So I never depend on just an email or just a call. I always try and do both.
Confirm and verify, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. So real estate agents, should they be investing in real estate as well, or should they just be doing this commission thing where they're selling properties and making that 3% from deal to deal?
Well, they should be investing, of course.
Okay.
I mean, really, if you think about it, real estate agents are self-employed. So they have no benefits. They have no health insurance. They have no 401k plan. It's all up to them to provide their own retirement, their own savings, which I think is how a lot of agents get in trouble. But I think buying rental properties is the best way to provide retirement, especially for a real estate agent.
Yeah.
Yep. They have the tools already and everything already lined up. So
yeah,
it just seems like it's easier for them to make that transition. But I mean, I know probably, 30 or 40 agents in my area that I, maybe interact with on a semi-regular basis. And I know 2 that own real estate, like that own rental property.
Why do you guys think that is? I mean, I'm really, really curious about it because when I was an agent, I wanted to invest and I was investing, and so I don't really understand why more agents aren't jumping in to become real estate investors, particularly given the access. Maybe it's just, the lack of knowledge, or maybe they don't have money and don't realize that you can get into the game without cash. Well, a lot of cash.
Yeah, I would say the same statistics with agents I know as well. I mean, maybe 1 out of 20 invests, and I don't know why either. It's so low. I think it might be, it matches kind of the general population of people who actually save money and invest themselves. Most people don't save money. They don't invest. They just kind of live paycheck to paycheck and assume things will work out.
Yep.
Yeah, makes sense.
I think that's a really good way of looking at it. It just, real estate agents are just people like general. They don't realize that they could actually be an investor like their clients are. But I know a lot of real estate agents, they say they want to invest. I hear that all the time. But so does the general population also, right? They watch the flipping shows and they say, man, I'd like to do that. But then they don't actually. So I think probably this is a good time for me to plug that we actually have a guide for real estate agents. It's free. It's online. It's just a massive, epic, long blog post called the Ultimate Real Estate Agent's Guide to Working with Investors.
Working with investors.
Yeah. You can get it at biggerpockets.com/agent guide. Yeah. If you're a real estate agent, check it out. It teaches you how to work with investors like us. So anyway, why don't we move on? We talked about your first deal was a rental property. Can we actually kind of dig into that a little bit? You said it was in 2010. What was that first property? What did it look like and what'd you buy it for?
It was a small cookie cutter 2-story built in 2005, I believe. And I'd wanted to invest for probably 2 years, but I had problems saving up for the down payment. I was going the 20% down route. Finally had my money saved up, been searching for a deal. This one popped up. It was an estate sale. I made an offer on it. I thought it was a great offer, waited for a response. The agent calls back and says, hey, we accepted another offer. Sorry. I'm like, you guys never told me there were any other offers. I would have offered a lot higher. So I wasn't real happy, and I let the other agent know that. And 3 weeks later, he calls back and says, hey, the other contract fell apart. Do you still want this for your offer price? I said, of course. He's like, okay, I'm not going to tell anybody else it's yours. So I ended up, I'm like, sweet. It worked out better for me because I would have paid more if he told me there were other offers to start with. But I don't suggest other agents deal that way. So I bought that for $96,900, I believe. It needed about $2,000 in work, just a little bit of paint, some fixtures, and some appliances. And I ended up renting it for $1,050 a month right away. Right now, to show you what our rents have done, we just re-rented it for $1,300 a month. And I think we had 7 applicants in the first day.
Wow.
So, yeah, we might have been able to get more than that. But, and it's been a great rental.
Wow.
It did, really got hit by a massive hailstorm over the summer. So that house had $12,000 in damage from the hailstorm, new roof and
Nice.
it had vinyl siding, so 2 sides of the house had to be re-sided.
Ooh,
But
insurance
luckily,
cover all that.
exactly. Yep,
Nice.
that's what insurance is for.
Okay,
Yep.
well, good deal.
Yeah. Hey, Mark, you had talked about the agent, you putting in the offer and not hearing back, and later finding out that there were other offers in. Is that something that's typical of agents? Are they performing? Are they doing their job by doing that, or is it really something where they're supposed to let everybody involved know that there's other offers in? And ultimately, the final question is, what can investors or traditional buyers even do to improve that line of communication, to make sure they don't find themselves in a situation like you were, where you're putting in an offer and you're just kind of, okay, sorry, you lost it. Well,
Right.
I didn't have a chance to even fight.
Yeah. So in Colorado, our listing contracts have a spot where you mark, I will notify other buyers if multiple offers are received or if we have other contracts. So technically, that agent is supposed to tell each person who submits an offer if they already have a contract or if they get more contracts on the house. I would say most of the time agents do notify buyers that there are more offers. Every once in a while, they won't. Usually, I notice it's kind of a lazy agent, someone who just wants to get the deal done and move on. What you can do about it, I mean, whenever I submit an offer, I always say, hey, please let me know if you have any other offers or if you get any more offers. Just to reiterate, it's very important to me that, I might be willing to raise my offer if you get more offers on it. There's not a whole lot else you can do except hope that agent is acting ethically.
Yeah. And of course, report them if they're not.
Yeah. And I don't know. I mean, you can report them. I don't know if there's a whole lot that will be done in that situation.
Yeah, probably
but
not.
You can try.
Yeah. Right on. No, I think it's one of those things that a lot of people don't realize that it's part of their job to actually do that. And so if they're not, you need to know how to handle yourself.
Right. And they're doing a disservice to their seller as well.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they could be costing them thousands of dollars by not telling other buyers that there's multiple offers on this house.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, cool. Good advice.
Yeah. Well, hey, let's move on and talk more about the rentals. I know we kind of want to focus on 2 aspects here, flips and rentals. So why don't we start with the rentals, since we are already talking about that first one. So first of all, do you mind me asking, how many rentals do you have so far, like since that first one?
I have 10 total. So I just bought my 10th one last month.
Nice.
Right on.
Congrats. And what kind of, are these all single family? Are they multifamily?
They are all single family.
Okay. Is that because that's what the deals have, or is that all you buy?
So far, that's all I buy. I am open to great deals, whether they're single family or multifamily. I don't know if it's a Colorado specific thing, but multifamily in my area has worse returns than single family.
Interesting.
So it's just a no-brainer to me. Part of that might be because I can get better deals on single family homes. There's more of them. There's more distressed single family homes, more estate sales. The multifamily, there just aren't that many of them, and very few ever come up for sale.
Hey, Mark, you mentioned a couple of times estate sales, and you said you find those on the MLS. Can you, for those people who don't quite fully understand what that is, explain what an estate sale and how would they actually find that specifically?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, estate sale is where the owners of the home have passed away, and the home is transferred possession into, their heirs, and they now are selling the home. And to be honest, all of the estate sales I have bought, I did not know were estate sales until I had my contract accepted. So there's really nowhere on MLS that says estate sale or distressed sale. It's just one of those things where it's a great price. And I made an offer that I found out, that's why it was such a great price. They wanted to sell it quickly.
Gotcha.
Cool.
Makes sense.
Well,
Makes sense.
The thing you mentioned about in your area, multifamily doesn't make sense. I think that's a really important point we should touch on here, is that every area is different. I mean, people oftentimes want to pick a strategy based on what they heard on the BiggerPockets podcast or what they read in a book. But the fact is, sometimes certain strategies do not work. Multifamilies work well in my area. Single families work okay. And in your area, it's opposite of that. So I think it's important for people to just know that. every market is different, and try to figure out what works in your market and make a strategy fit with where you live.
Good advice.
Thank you. So do you have any tips on how can people figure out what their market, if they're not an agent, how do they know what's good in their market and bad in their market, and what's their local area like?
They've just got to get out there and look at houses. There's really no shortcut. You can look on Zillow, you can look at listings online, but you've got to get out, look at houses, look at Craigslist to see what rental rates are. You've got to get out there, get in the market, see what's for sale, see what's selling, and then try and match that up with what rent rates are and kind of make the numbers. Once you start figuring out what certain properties rent for, you can figure out where those sweet spots are that rent for the most compared to what price you have to pay.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any shortcut to just getting out there in the market.
And that's all part of the job, right? Being a real estate investor, you have to understand your market. You should be able to walk into a house and say, okay, well, this house is overpriced or this is underpriced. I mean, you should be able to just, without even thinking, know what the comps are on any property that comes up in your farm, which is kind of the area that you're focusing on, right?
Exactly. And going back to the real estate agent aspect, a lot of them don't invest themselves. So you can't necessarily rely on them to tell you what a good investment is if they aren't investing themselves. It's something the investor themselves has to know and has to figure out.
Yeah. And I think that's another thing that in the agent guide that Brandon had mentioned, we really want to get that in the hands of every single agent out there, because we filled that thing with information about how to invest, how to analyze deals, how to work the numbers, all that stuff. When new investors rely on a real estate agent who doesn't have the knowledge, they can put themselves in a dangerous position.
Yes. I just talked to an investor today who started fix and flipping homes with a realtor who told him what deals to buy, what they'll be worth, and he ended up losing $20,000 on one deal.
Ooh.
Because, I don't know if either the agent didn't know what the values were or they just wanted to make a sale.
Yep.
But you've got to, even if you trust your agent, you have to be able to confirm his information.
I think that's a really, really, really valuable tip, that you can't just rely. I mean, you can't have when you're a real estate investor, nobody else is going to do your job for you. Even if you have people on your team, which I know I want to talk to you about because you're the master of having good teams, but we'll get to that. So, but even if you have good people on your team, you still nobody's going to do your job for you. And so I think that's just what it comes down to. So very cool. Well, why don't we talk about funding? How are you funding? You've got 10 properties. First of all, I thought there was a rule that said you can't buy more than 4. And so how do you have 10 and how are you funding them?
There are no rules. No. No, when I first had 4 properties, I went to my bank and they're like, you can't lend on more than 4. That's a rule. They said that. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. So I started looking around, researching, and it may be a rule, but it's a rule for individual banks. There's no law. There's no lending guideline that says you can't have more than 4 loans. But most of the big banks, Citibank, they won't lend on more than 4 properties.
Yep.
So what I did is I found a local lender, a portfolio lender, which means they keep the loans in-house. So they lend their own money. They don't sell the loans to investors.
Yep.
They keep them in-house. They can lend on as many properties as they want.
Right.
They still have to follow guidelines, the laws, but they're much more flexible on who they loan to, how much they loan. And I can get more than 10 loans. They told me I will be able to get as many loans as I want as long as I can still qualify for them.
Nice. And we've talked about it a couple of times on the BiggerPockets podcast before, and I'm a huge fan of portfolio loans. I've been using them the last few properties I bought because it just works. And people wonder, so why don't we ask this question? I'll ask you, and even though we've covered it in other shows, but how do you find a portfolio lender? How do you find a guy that will do more than 10 properties?
The first thing you do is you ask everybody you know in the real estate business. So
Yep.
Investors, real estate agents, title companies, other lenders, just ask them, hey, what bank are investors using to get their loans? Because many people, they won't have any idea what a portfolio lender is. They won't know what that term means.
Yep.
But they'll know who investors are using to get their loans from.
Yep.
Yeah.
So if that doesn't work, check your local banks, local credit unions, call them up. Again, you might have to, ask for their commercial loan department, tell them what you're looking for. Don't just say, hey, I want a portfolio lender, because they might be a portfolio lender and not know that term themselves.
Yep. Well, that's good advice too, by the way.
Yeah. And then, you can always search online too. Type in portfolio lender for your state and see what pops up. Might take a few hours of searching, but it's well worth it if you find one.
Yeah. Another just tip that people can use to find portfolio lenders that people have done for me is they sent me a PM, a private message on BiggerPockets, because they knew I was investing in Western Washington. Said, hey, Brandon, where are you getting your loans from? And I say, oh, this is the bank I use. This one's good too. And here's another one. And it took me 10 seconds to reply to that, private message. So, I mean, things like that. You just go to biggerpockets.com/meet. You can find people in your zip code or your area, and then just find somebody who's active, who looks like they know what they're doing, and ask them who they're using. I mean, those referrals and those recommendations can be great. So anyway,
absolutely.
Yeah, cool. Well, hey, all right. Well, so what kind of condition are the properties in, the rental properties, when you're buying them?
They vary greatly. Like that first one I bought was pretty good condition. The next one I bought needed $18,000 in work.
Oh, wow.
So it was paint, carpet,
everything,
kitchen counters, landscaping, had a fireplace in the basement where the chimney went up through the master bedroom closet.
Nice.
So that was pretty safe. Put your clothes next to a chimney.
Nice.
So we took that out. Needed quite a bit. So I love the ones that don't need the work because it takes less cash, but usually the great deals are the ones that need the work.
Yeah. Cool. Well, so what are you doing in terms of management? Are you managing yourself, or do you have a property manager?
I managed myself until September.
Okay.
So when I took over the team from my father, I actually hired a new person on my team, and one of his jobs was to learn how to do property management. So I kind of helped him out, and he is now handling, I'd say, 80% of the work.
So does he work for your company? Does he work for you, or is he an outside property manager that works for lots of different landlords in your area?
Nope, he works for me. He's on my team. He only does property management on my properties.
Right on.
So he has a lot of other tasks. He's a real estate agent as well. So it's just kind of one part of his job is managing those properties.
Right on. And what point do you think it's okay for somebody to do that? Hire somebody in-house versus outsourcing to a third party?
If I didn't have him doing other things for me, I don't think it would make any sense at all to hire him just for property management. That's a good question. Maybe
put you on the spot. Come on.
Yeah, in-house, boy, 50 single family properties. I don't know. Multifamily, it might. I'll think about that more.
Right on. Well, at some point, you need to be generating enough cash to be able to pay for them. I mean, that's ultimately probably the right answer. Figure out how many units you have, how much you're paying a PM, and if it's coming close to the salary of a potential property manager in house, I guess you could just replace and try and hire someone.
Right.
That would be my thought.
Well, my tip with that is what I did is I scaled up small, or I'm scaling up small. So when I had too many properties that I could handle on my own, my wife took over and started doing a lot of it. Then when it got too much for her just to handle, we hired a part-time assistant to help, and that's working anywhere between 5 and 20 hours a week. And as we get more and more properties that we're looking after, we'll get more and more hours and maybe another person eventually. So you don't have to have a full-time in-house person immediately. You could do part-time.
Yeah.
No,
that makes sense.
All right, cool. Well, how about what kind of cash flow do you look for in a rental property?
My real basis has been $500 a month is what I really want on my properties. And I know a lot of people see my numbers and say, I don't understand how you can possibly get $500 a month cash flow when you bought it for $100,000 and you're renting it for $1,100 or $1,200. But one thing I like to point out is Colorado has some of the lowest taxes in the country. So
hey, no, seriously, quiet.
On my last property I bought, I paid $99,000 for it, and my taxes are $362 a year.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy.
I'm moving to Colorado.
That is not Denver taxes.
No, that one's really low. I don't know why that one's so low, but yeah, usually they're around $500 to $600 a year on a $100,000 purchase on my rentals.
Nice. Yeah, that's much better. That's about half what I'm paying. So cool. So you want five? Is that after? I mean, paying everything out, or is that kind of gross, or is that your net cash flow?
No, I look at that as my net. So after paying taxes, insurance, my mortgage, and expenses, I've also been really lucky to have very, very few vacancies, but I still do factor in percentage for vacancies and maintenance. But I've been pretty good at hitting that figure over all my properties.
What about like CapEx? Are you figuring that into the cash flow equation for yourself, or no?
No, I'm not.
Okay. So I mean, if we were to spread that sucker out over 30 years, we're looking at different numbers.
You might need a new roof in 20 years or something, but
yeah, I mean, I am taking a percentage for maintenance. I don't know exactly if it's high enough. I usually do 10 or 15% of the rent. I usually fully repair my properties before I rent them.
okay.
So to start out with, there's usually not much. Of course, there's always some surprises.
Yeah.
But they should be pretty close to that over the years.
Yeah.
Another factor is I'm paying off properties. I paid off my first property this year, so that increased the cash flow significantly on that one.
That was actually my next question was, are you paying off these properties?
Yes.
You are. Okay. Why is that? Why are you not just letting them, like, I mean, people argue that point all the time on BiggerPockets and elsewhere. Is it smarter to pay off your properties completely, kind of the Dave Ramsey approach, is get out of debt completely, or leverage to the hilt and, rock as much leverage and mortgages as you can? So why do you choose to pay off your rentals?
Well, to start with, I love debt. I'm not going to lie. I love debt because it makes me more money. I can buy a lot more houses by getting loans than I can paying cash. The biggest reason what I do is I take my cash flow from all my properties and I use it to pay off one loan at a time. And in a perfect world where I knew I could get unlimited 30-year fixed rate mortgages for the rest of my life, I wouldn't pay a dime extra on any property. I would just collect cash flow.
Yep.
But like you said, right now my portfolio lender said they'll loan on as many properties as I want. But I don't know if that policy will be there forever. They could change it next year. They could go out of business. If something happens and all of a sudden I'm stuck at 10 mortgages, I can't buy any more properties. So it's kind of just a balance of trying to, keep as small amount as mortgages as I can while still purchasing as many properties as I can. And then I'm not relying on my cash flow to buy new properties. I have enough income to do that. So it's really a specific strategy for my situation. I don't know if it works well for the majority of people out there.
How does the mortgage interest deduction play into your equation too? Because does it make sense to hold on to, have some kind of note to be paying off so that you can write off the mortgage, or is that just kind of an irrelevant part of the equation for you?
I've never understood that logic, because sure, I get to write off the interest on the mortgage, but if I'm not making that mortgage payment, my income is going to be much more than the tax savings I had with that mortgage payment. So I'm making more money if I don't have a mortgage payment, even though I'm paying more taxes. So to me, that does not have any effect at all on my strategy.
Yeah, the math should be pretty simple. Are you making more money, or when they take your taxes out, which is bigger, and you go with the strategy that's going to net you more cash in your pocket, right?
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, right on. So we've been talking about these rentals, and it's interesting. Lots of tips there and advice there. Want to transition to flips. So how are you funding your flips then? Are you using the same portfolio lenders? Are you using partners? Are you using hard money? What are you doing there?
I am using the same portfolio lender. So it's kind of a mixture. I've heard some awesome deals out there people are getting from portfolio lenders for their flips. Mine is not. I think mine's a great deal, but it doesn't finance as much as some other loans would. So I am able to do 75% of the purchase price with my portfolio lender, and their rate right now is 5.25 on those loans for 1 year loan. I think it's 1.5 points.
So what does that mean? 75% of the purchase price. So you buy a house for 100,000. It needs 20,000, and the after is 150. Let's just use a simplified example. What is that 75%? How does that work out?
It's $75,000. So I can't factor any repairs. The ARV is not considered. It's just how much I pay for the house.
Okay.
So if I pay $100,000 for it, they'll loan me $75,000 on it.
And the rest of the money you're coming out of pocket with, correct?
Right. And I have my sister actually provides me with some private money. It's great rate. I think she's charging me 6%.
That's really good.
So I use that, and then I've over the years saved up kind of a bankroll, I like to call it, to fund repairs, fund down payments, take care of all the other expenses.
Gotcha.
Cool.
Oh, that's great.
Well, hey, here's a question that I ask a lot because I struggle with it a lot. How do you find and how are you finding good contractors?
Oh, it's tough. We actually had to stop using one recently because he just lost touch with his workers. But we generally use a general contractor who will handle most of the repairs himself. And this guy was great because he knew the light fixtures, the paint colors, everything we did. He knew it. We barely had to talk to him for what to do in a house. But then he ended up having some health problems, hired a couple new guys who didn't know what they were doing. He wasn't at the properties. He wasn't keeping track. And all of a sudden, I'm going out to a property 8 times thinking it's done, and the work isn't done yet, and the work is done just horrible. So it's really a constant struggle to find great contractors who won't gouge you on prices. Recently, I just hired a new contractor who I found through Home Depot. And the way I found him was Home Depot has their contractor where they'll do work for you. And I called them up, say, hey, can you give us some bids on some properties? And they're like, okay, sure. The guy shows up, says, to be honest, we're going to be more expensive than local contractors, but we can do some stuff cheaper. I said, all right. I'm like, do you know any contractors? And he said, I can't recommend any, but I can tell you who comes into our store at 6 a.m. every day. And he gave me a list of 3 guys. So I'm like, well, awesome.
That's similar to Jay Scott's advice from his episode, which is be at Home Depot at 6 a.m. and see who shows up.
Yep.
So,
right.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's great.
Cool.
That's great.
Well, what about managing those contractors? Like if you're managing a flip, are you actually personally doing that? Do you have somebody on your team that does it? Or how do you deal with the day-to-day?
My wife actually does a lot of it.
Oh, cool.
So she loves to see the houses and decide what to fix, what to replace. So she does a lot of the day-to-day, picks out materials, decides how much needs done, if it needs granite counters or if it just needs, regular cheap Home Depot counters. So she does a lot of that. She, our contractors text, so she'll text them, tell them what she wants. So she does a lot of that. And I am also going to start having another one of my assistants help her out with that too, because we're starting to get pretty busy on that end.
Right on. That's great. So where then are the holes, right? You said this one contractor just wasn't doing their job, and how often, I guess, do you need to be visiting a job site, particularly with a new contractor, until you can be comfortable, until you know that they're kind of on the ball, they're doing what they're supposed to be doing? Do you have to show up every day, 3 times a day, just to make sure you're not getting robbed? I mean, what do you need to do?
I don't think you have to be there that often. I think the most important thing is to always get a bid beforehand. So always have a written bid, make sure everything is in writing, everyone's on the same page, they all know what is expected to be done. And then, with a new contractor, I'd say 2 times a week, although I doubt I would go out there that much. But to be safe, I would say 2 times a week to make sure that things are being done in a timely manner and they're done correctly. It amazes me how often things will be written down that don't get done.
Yep.
Wow. Yeah. I tell you, I don't think there's a chance in hell I could go twice a week. I think personally I'd be there every day until I was comfortable, but that's just me being me. What about you, Brandon? What would you do with a new contractor? How often would you be out there?
I don't know. couple of times to get them started, and then
Yeah.
as long as you can usually tell pretty quickly, I think, what kind of contractor they're going to end up being. But I don't know. It's a struggle for me constantly. I never.
Well, it's a struggle for everybody.
It's a struggle for
right?
everyone. Yeah.
Yeah. You guys, we're not alone.
I sometimes feel like this is like support group, like Bad Contractors Anonymous or something.
Oh man, and then we all get slammed by the contractors, and every time we talk about this stuff, you always get the contractors who are like, "Oh, I do a good job, man."
Yeah,
Well,
but we can't afford that guy, so that's the
problem. You're
Right.
charging 6 times retail, right?
Yeah.
All right. So what about selling the flips? Yeah, are you prepping them for sale before you're done? Are you listing them, while you're still working on them? I know a lot of flippers go and first do landscaping and curb appeal before they even touch the inside, just to get people excited in the neighborhood. What's your theory on selling these things?
In our market, I put them in MLS, and that's no. I have put up, for sale by owner sign, kind of at the end of the rehab, just to see if we get any calls and we can sell it ourselves without paying a commission. And really, that's the extent of it. I don't have any real secrets or tips to getting it done early. I really should work on that myself, because that's probably my weak point.
Do you stage them at all, or do you just empty? Okay,
I don't stage them at all.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I've staged probably half of mine, and the other half I haven't, and I don't know if I've seen a difference. It's too hard for me to tell. Like, statistically, am I seeing them sell faster? I don't know. So who knows? Like the ones I don't stage and they take a long time to sell. Like I look back, I'm like, well, I should have staged. But then other ones I don't stage and they sell right away. I'm like, well, I don't know. Anyway, what about final question about the flipping is, what is a minimum profit that you usually look for in a flip? Actually, I have 2 more questions. Sorry, that's not the last one.
Okay.
But first one is, what is the minimum profit you look for?
I usually look to make at least $25,000.
Gotcha.
So my sweet spot right now seems to be in the $70,000 to $100,000 purchase price range. So I'm looking to make at least 25, hoping for more. And lately we've been averaging about 35,000, I think, profit.
That's great.
Not bad. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
All right. My last question about the flipping then is, how do you actually decide if you're going to flip a property or rent a property?
Oh, great question. My criteria for renting is actually much stricter than for flipping. And it boils down primarily to the location. I want to be in the best rent to value ratio location I can find. And I'm lucky that happens to be within my hometown in Greeley. And so I want houses in Greeley. I'd love to have them needing as little work as possible. And I prefer houses that are as new as possible, although most of them are about 30 to 40 years old. But I try to stay away from houses older than 50 years, just because maintenance can really creep up on you.
Yep.
And as far as the flips, my main goal is to meet that 25,000 profit. And I'm going probably a 40-mile radius around my town. I look at the age, but it's not nearly as important to me because I'm going to be selling the house. The repair cost isn't as important because once I sell the house, I'm going to be getting that money back. With a rental, the only way to get that money back is to refinance the home. So I'd say there's probably a 4-to-1 ratio of flips to rentals I buy.
Okay. That makes sense. I mean, I think that is important you define your criteria, and you can be a lot more strict with the ones that are you're going to hold for a long time. I mean, I have some of my older rental properties. They're just irritating because they're 100 years old. So like things are constantly breaking a lot more than my newer properties. So I think that's a good age is definitely an important thing to look at. So
Definitely. Cool. All right. So, I mean, look, it sounds like you do a lot of stuff. You're a busy agent. You flip houses. You're a landlord. You blog on your side. You write for BiggerPockets. Oh my God, I'm getting tired of saying it all. You engage. You're connecting on the forums. You got a wife. How do you have time to do all this stuff?
I also have twin 2-year-olds too.
Ooh.
Wow. All right. Crazy time. Busy,
Yeah.
man.
Well, the first
You're
thing
like
I'll
a super
say,
investor.
I probably work 35 hours a week. So I
you
am
mean
not
just with your real estate agent job or everything?
He's talking just about the twins, Brandon.
right. I would say everything real estate involved. So my rentals,
Wow.
my flipping, my house selling. I work 35 hours a week, maybe another 5 hours blogging and writing, which isn't as much a job for me as it is kind of a hobby and something fun to do. So, I mean, the key is having a team. There's no way I could do a quarter of what I do without people to help. And I'm just a strong advocate of as soon as you can hire someone to help you with tasks that you don't like doing, the better your life is going to get and the happier you're going to be.
So what does that look like for you? I mean, we know you've got the guy who's the property manager who's doing a couple other things. Who else is on your team? You know, who do you work with and what do they do? What are their roles?
Right. So I have 9 people on my team. So let's see here. 1, 2, 3 of them are just real estate agents. So they work with buyers and sellers. They don't really help me with my business. They do their own thing. I pay for some of their expenses and get a cut of their commissions.
So you're a broker as well then? You're not
I
just
am not. Well, technically I'm a broker, but I'm not the broker of my own office.
Okay. So you've got a broker at your office who these agents are working under, and you as the owner of the company get to collect the piece of the commissions as a result. This is starting to sound sexy here. Hold on.
Yeah. So the broker is over all the agents, and so Pro Realty is where I work. Within Pro Realty, you have agents, or you can have a team too. So I have a team that's under that broker. So everybody on my team, those 3 agents, if they sell a house, it technically goes through me, and I get paid and then pay them after I get paid, if that makes sense.
Yeah, gotcha.
So they aren't working individually for that broker. They're on my team, and I'm working under that broker.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
So I have another full-time assistant who is the first assistant I hired. She's been with me 4 years, I think. And so she started out helping me with BPOs, which are broker price opinions.
Yep.
Do a lot of those for banks and REO companies. She's great at that. She helps me with valuations. She is also licensed, so she does a few of her own deals a year, helps with expenses, just a lot of different things. So then I also have another full-time assistant who handles contracts, paperwork, dealing with the title companies, helping out with some of my REO and HUDs, putting houses in MLS. So he was basically my dad's full-time assistant, and now he's turned into my full-time assistant as well. So he's the one who writes contracts for me whenever I see a great deal. And then I also have the person I hired who helps with the property management. He is also kind of the team manager. So he helped me set up payroll. He got us all legal as far as taxes, keeps track of what's going on with the team, our numbers, how many houses we're selling. He's also a licensed agent, also does the property management, and then he also helps out with the blog side too. He was actually worked at my portfolio lender a few years ago and helped them with their website. But I went to college with him, so we've been great friends for a long time. And then my cousin helps with accounting, and another cousin helps with drive-by inspections on homes. And then my dad is still on our team too as an agent. He doesn't do as much now, but he still sells a few houses. So
okay, very cool, very cool. And that's something that I struggle with a lot, and I think a lot of investors do. And that's the whole idea of a team and getting people to do work for you. So, do you have any tips for hiring, making that first hire? How do you know you're hiring the right person? I know that right now BiggerPockets is hiring. So I'm sure so I'm sure Josh is probably interested as well. How do you know you're finding the right? I am
interested. This has been impossible. It's really hard to find good people to work for you. I got to tell you. I mean, Brandon, I don't know why he's still there, but No, I mean, Brandon, I just got I count my blessings that we found Brandon and some of the other people we've got, but finding new people it's just so tedious in my business. And I know, it's got to be the same.
I've been really lucky that I've found great people, but the first thing I always do is ask around other agents, anybody I know in the business, who's looking for work? Do you know of anybody? And my first assistant was actually working for my sister, who used to have a property management company, but no longer does. So she was kind of phasing her out. She needed more work. So I interviewed her. My sister said she was awesome. So that was a no-brainer. And she's been great. Another person, another agent had said this person was looking for a job. They'd been in the industry for a long time, very computer savvy. I interviewed them. They've worked out great. So, I mean, I haven't done a whole lot except ask people that I know who's looking for a job.
Yeah. And I think word of mouth is probably the best way to find somebody.
Oh, yeah.
So definitely cool. All right. Well, I would love to spend an hour just talking about building a team, but we don't really have time. So let me move on to the last question I have here in kind of our main section of questions before we get to the fire round. And that is, what are your long-term goals with real estate? I know something about 100 houses you've written about. Can we talk about that?
Yeah. About a year and a half ago, I really got into goal setting, planning my life, just writing everything down. And it really just boosted my whole career and everything. But my biggest goal is to buy 100 single-family homes by January of 2023. So my first goal when I started buying rentals was to buy 30. And I figured, hey, this is doable. I can buy 3 a year for the next 10 years, no problem. It seems like a good goal. Then when I started to look at it, it's not really challenging me if I knew I could reach 3 houses a year.
Yep.
So I thought, man, I've got to bump this up. I made it 100 houses. I'm like, I have no idea how I'll do it, but if I've got that huge goal, maybe I'll figure it out.
Nice. Nice. So you're pushing yourself. I mean, it's you have these attainable goals, and then you've got these quasi unattainable goals, and you're using, you're looking at the realistic ones, ensuring that you're meeting those, and then setting these kind of tougher goals and saying, hey, if I really kick butt, I can get those.
Exactly. Yeah. And I can see how it improved my business almost immediately, setting those huge goals and taking over my father, from everything was something I had in the back of my mind for a few years, but never had the guts to approach him about it or really figure out how to do it. And then once I started going through this kind of transformation, it's like, I can really do this. And I talked to him and he's like, I've been thinking about it too. I think this is a good time. So it's worked out great.
That's cool. Now, are you one of the, you recommend writing your goals down? Do you think it's okay just to have them in your head? I mean, when people are planning their goals, how should they do that? You've been through goal training, I know, with what was it, Jack something?
Canfield.
Yeah, Jack Canfield.
Yeah.
So what do you recommend people for setting goals? What should they do?
I think you should write everything down, really. Not just because you see it, but it's weird, but the actual act of writing it, it's like it burns it into your brain. And you think about it while you're writing them down, you start imagining them. I think it makes a huge difference when you write them down, and just being able to review them too. Part of our goal training was to have 101 goals, and it's really hard to think of that many goals, even little ones. And so it makes you think of really everything you want in your life. And a lot of those things are small things you forget about. And when you write them down, you can go back and review and say, oh, hey,
yeah,
that's not so bad. I could do that today.
Yeah. Well,
so it's really cool.
I'm going to toss out this challenge just to everyone listening. I want to encourage everyone out there to just go and write down one goal, something that's important in their life. Go write it down, or go on the BiggerPockets forums and start a thread. Just says, my goal is. We have a goal
forum. Just for that. Yeah.
Yeah. So go ahead and do that. Go this week. Go write one of your goals or a big goal. So yeah, very, very important. I think goals are very important. So let's move on.
It's time for the fire round.
All right, this is the fire round. These are questions straight from the forums. So, and I know, Mark, you are pretty, Yeah, you're pretty. You're pretty involved. You're
Thank
pretty
you.
involved
So
in the forums. Gotta
Yep.
finish my sentences, figure out where to put those commas in. You are pretty involved in the forums, so you probably have seen a lot of these. But first question, what is one piece of advice that you would offer to newbies?
Set your goals first. Make your goals, and then break down your goals to steps you can take that create action. So, I mean, so many newbies want to get started, are all gung-ho about investing, but they never actually physically do anything to get started. So I think just list steps out that you can do. Go talk to a real estate agent, talk to a lender, visit a house. Just get out there and do something so that you're physically in the game.
Do
Yep.
something. Do it.
Yeah.
Do it.
Do it. That's great. All right. I'm 23 years old, good income, good credit, and just bought my first rental, but I cannot get approved for another rental property. How do I keep moving forward when the banks keep saying no?
Keep talking to more banks because if you've got good income, good credit, and you've only have one rental, there's going to be a bank out there that'll finance you.
Yep.
Yeah.
It may have to be a local portfolio lender. It may even be a big bank, but if you've got the money and the credit and your ratios are okay, you should be able to do it.
Good.
Right on. Right
Good.
on.
All right. How do I comp a property? In other words, how do I determine the value on a property that I know is a teardown?
Well, that's a good one.
Oh, like I guess you would comp out the lots. So try and find vacant lots in your area that are similar, and then you'd have to subtract the teardown cost from that.
Yeah, I think
Good.
that's a fair way to do it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the right answer is, but I think that makes
sounds
a lot
right
of
to me,
sense. Yeah. Right on. All right, consistent late payments. So you've got a tenant and they're constantly paying late. You know, is it stupid to keep this person? I mean, ultimately they end up paying, but they're just always late.
Yeah, I've dealt with this a little bit, and I think the first thing you have to do is be in constant communication with them. So every couple weeks, even, call them up and say, hey, just want to make sure your rent's going to be in. We started sending statements every month to people who are late, just to remind them, this is what's due with late fees. If they're going to be late, make sure you charge late fees so that people actually have a penalty if they're paying late.
Yep.
Otherwise, what's the point? They're just going to keep doing it.
Yep.
I struggle with that because it's hard to try and do some of those things, but in the long run, it's going to be better for both you and the tenant if you stick to your guns.
Yep, I agree. I have a tenant right now who's been with us for 3 or 4 years now, but about 2 years ago, he got off somehow on his rent and he cannot seem to catch up no matter what he does. So every month he writes us 2 checks, one for like half of it, and then another one he post dates the check for 2 weeks later or a week later. Yeah, because he gets paid weekly, a week later, and then includes the late fee. So I've been getting an extra $50 a month out of this property every month for the last 1.5 or 2 years now on this. And some people would say I should just kick him out, but he's so regular with it, and it's easy. So I don't know. It's not a black and white answer, I don't think. And so anyway, threw that in there. Why don't we move
There
on?
you go.
Yeah, let's move on to the last section of the show we like to call the Famous Four. All right, the Famous Four. These are questions that we ask everyone, and we're going to fire them at you.
All right.
First one, what is your favorite real estate book?
I would say The Millionaire Real Estate Investor by Gary Keller for investors. And then I'll throw in The Millionaire Real Estate Agent by him as well for real estate agents. They're both awesome books.
There you go.
I
Nice.
somebody just recommended the other day that I read The Millionaire Real Estate Agent. Even though I'm not an agent, they said it'll just improve your business in just all regards, no matter what business you're in. They said it would help. So it's on my list now.
And I'm actually surprised. I think that's the first time the Keller books have been recommended on the podcast. And
Might be.
I could be wrong.
Investor was very early on, but it's been a long time. But
Okay.
never agent, I don't think.
Yeah, interesting.
Cool.
All right. What about your favorite business book, non-real estate?
Think and Grow Rich. That really got me started, my whole goal and positive thinking and just my whole kind of transformation. It's a great book. Old book, but a great book.
Right on. What about hobbies? What do you do for fun besides, pull your hair out with your little 2-year-old twins?
I love golf. So I probably play once a week. I love cars. I've got a few cars. I love working on them and trying not to break them too much when I do it myself. And then, my family. I spend a lot of time with my kids and my wife, and just have it's important to me to spend as much time as I can with them.
Right on.
Very cool. All right, final question from me. What do you believe sets apart successful real estate investors from those who either give up or just fail?
Kind of a common theme, but goals. I think when I first started real estate, I had no goals. I had no roadmap. I was just kind of doing it to see what happened, and it didn't get me very far. Once I started having goals, writing them down and breaking them down into actions I could take, things just exploded.
Awesome.
That's great. That's great. Well, where can folks find out more about you?
Well, a few places. Like you said, I'm active on BiggerPockets. I've got a profile on there. You can send a colleague request, email me there. I also run a blog on investing at investformore.com, and that's invest FOURMORE.com, and that just kind of played off the whole getting more than 4 mortgages play. So,
I always wondered what it was. Okay, perfect.
Yep. So talk a lot about my flips, my rentals, and being a real estate agent on that blog.
Right on. Well, listen, man, we really, really appreciate having you on the show. And of course, as a blogger on BiggerPockets and all your contributions on the site, I think it's a pretty good formula for success. Being active and engaging in the community, I'm sure has led to some opportunities for you. So
cool. Yeah.
That's great. And so thanks so much. And we really appreciate having you on the show. For those people who are interested, can ask Mark any questions you've got on show notes at biggerpockets.com/show68. Mark, thanks so much. We appreciate having you.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Mark.
All right, guys, that was Mark Ferguson with a ton of really, really good information about everything from flipping to buying and holding and being an agent and working with agents and finding contractors. So hopefully you guys enjoyed today's show as much as I know Brandon did.
I did. I'm going to actually call up my agent and ask him out to go get some lunch at a fancy restaurant in town.
Oh, there you go. See?
Yeah.
Nice job. Mark Ferguson, all the real estate agents who service real estate investors are going to thank you for the fine dinners that they're going to be taken out to.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, listen, guys, thanks as always for listening. Check out the show notes at biggerpockets.com/show68. Jump on Facebook, Twitter, G+, LinkedIn, and everywhere else online, and make sure to follow us and keep up with what we've got going on. And of course, be sure to join us on BiggerPockets, and you too can interact with wonderful guys like Mark Ferguson who are there helping out, interacting, and doing their part to help make you successful. So thanks for your time, and we'll see you at show 69. I'm Josh Dorkin, signing off.
You're listening to BiggerPockets Radio, simplifying real estate for investors large and small. If you're here looking to learn about real estate investing without all the hype, you're in the right place. Be sure to join the millions of others who have benefited from BiggerPockets.com, your home for real estate investing online.